This conference will now be recorded.
Hi friends. How are you? Have the safe stay home. Okay. Today I want to rewind electrostatic fields and magnetostatic fields and EM wave equations. And in the next session we will go to discuss EM wave characteristics and transmission lines. And as you know, uh, when the charge is under steady state condition, we have the electric field, and when it is moving with the steady speed, then we have the magnetostatic fields. And when you have the time varying fields, there is the existence of electromagnetic waves, right? So now let us see electrostatics. Electrostatics. So remember electrostatics. Once the charge is under the static condition, we have the electric field. And here for the electrostatics, we need to know what is electric force, how the electric fields, and how the electric flux, and what is Gauss law. What are the phenomena involved in the potentials and capacitors and dielectrics. So we know when you place two different charges, when you place the same charges, there exists some force between them. And when you have the different charges, there is the attractive force, and when you have the same charge, there is the repulsive force. So these are the pictures which shows the interaction between the different charged particles. So here we have the positive and negative charged particles, and they are attracting to each other. Why? Because they are different charges. And when you have the same positive charge particles and negative charge particles, there is the repulsive force acting between them. So arrow marks are moving away from the charges. And we know the charging can be by the induction, that phenomena, or by the electric polarization. We have some example also for the electric polarization. When you take the plastic paper, when you rub on the body, and after that when you place on the papers, some pieces of papers, those papers will be attracted by that plastic paper. Why? Because once we charge negatively whatever that material, whether it is a foam or plastic paper, and those positive charges will be attracted by that negative charges. And we know everyone, and whatever the force, when you place the two charges, the force between the two charges is always, we know, the directly proportional to the product of the charges, and at the same time it is inversely relation to the square of the distance between the charges. So F is directly proportional to the product of two charges. Let us say the charge at the point A and the charge at the point B, QA and QB, and it is inversely relation to the distance between those 2 point charges, square of that distance. So if you say the distance as r from A to B, then it is inversely related to 1 by r square. So when you take that proportionality constant as a 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, then we have the force between 2 point charges as QA QB by 4 pi epsilon naught r square. And since this force is the vector, we need to take the unit vector in the direction from A to B. So that's why we have the unit vector r from A to B. And let us say that constant coefficient 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught as k. Then we can say the force is k QA QB by r. Hello? Hello? Saujanya madam?
Sir, చెప్పండి సార్.
Is it
Hello?
clear? Is it clear
No sir,
voice?
no visible sir. Your screen is not visible.
My screen is not visible.
Yes sir. మీరు కనిపించట్లేదు, స్క్రీన్ అయితే చూపిస్తుంది.
నేను కనిపించట్లేదా?
మీకు కనిపించట్లేదు. కెమెరా ఆన్ చేయండి సార్ మీది.
ఆల్రెడీ ఆన్ చేశాను, మళ్ళీ ఎందుకు ఆఫ్ అయింది? ఇప్పుడు ఓకేనా?
ఇప్పుడు ఓకే సార్. అంటే సిగ్నల్ లాస్ అయి ఉంటుంది, సిగ్నల్ పోయి ఉంటుంది సార్.
We are discussing the Coulomb's law.
Okay.
So actually for the electrostatic field we have the Coulomb's law and Gauss law, and similarly for the magnetostatic field we have the Biot-Savart's law and Ampere circuital law, and for the time varying fields we have the EM waves, and here we are discussing Coulomb's law. Whatever the force between 2 point charges, see here, whatever the point charge means, that point charge dimensions must be so lesser than the distance between the charges, then only we can say that as the point charge. So here whatever the force acting between the point charges, whether that is the repulsive force or attractive force, we have that Coulomb's law formula to find that force between the point charges, that is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught qa qb, that means the point charge at A and point charge at B, by the distance if you say r square, and unit vector in the direction from A to B, whatever the point from A to B. So here epsilon naught is the free space permittivity, and that is given by the formula 8.854 into 10 power minus 12 farad per meter. And when you say 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, that is simply equal to 9 into 10 power 9, or exactly accurately you can say 8.988 into 10 power 9. Okay. So the force on charge due to single point charge, which is given by the Coulomb's law by the formula 1 by 4 pi epsilon, 2 point charges if you say small q and capital Q, and the distance as r, q by r square r bar. And here r bar is the unit vector from the point P to r point A to point B. Okay, so here r bar is the distance from that point Q2 and point B to point A. That's why here the distance r bar is rq minus r. Ma'am, is it clear to everyone?
Mr. VT, it is good. Your presentation is good. Audio is good. So, did you also turn on your camera?
Yes.
Sir, already turned on camera.
Okay, no problem. Please carry on. Nice, good.
Oh, okay, sir. So whatever the electric field force that is satisfying the superposition due to the different point charges. So up to now we said the Coulomb's law between 2 point charges, and similarly when you say the number of point charges, and due to that number of n point charges, whatever the force acting on another point, let us say here in the figure there is the source point, there we have the point charges q1 q2 q3 and so on, and due to those point charges whatever the force acting on that P is given by the superposition principle, whatever the force acting due to the q1 q2 and so on qn. So that formula is given that F is q by 4 pi epsilon naught q1 r1 square. R1 square is the distance between the point charge q1 and that point B, and r1 is the unit vector which is directing from the point q1 to that point B. So like that here that force equation is given by the superposition principle. So F is in general simply you can get q into E, And here E is the electric field. We will discuss that in the next one. And here electric field, which is nothing but the force per unit charge. So when you say the force per unit charge, from that equation only you can say E is given by 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught summation of those point charges into that unit vector by the distance square. Okay. And here whatever the charge distribution that we take up to now, we discussed the Coulomb's law, which is dealing with the point charges only, and we can extend those point charges Coulomb's law to find the force or electric field, which is the force per charge, and for the line charge distribution or surface charge distribution or volume charge distribution. So here the phenomena in the first figure we have the point charge cases, and whatever the force acting at the point P is the summation of the force due to the different point charges. And similarly, when you come to the line charge distribution, we have to take the integration with respect to that line charge density. And here that line charge density, let you say lambda or rho L. So here we have the lambda, and in general we can say line charge density as rho L, which is nothing but dq by dl. That means the differential point charge for the differential length. So here lambda or rho L is the line charge density. So when you say the integral of that value lambda dl or rho L dl, we will get that E. And similarly, surface charge density you can say as rho S, rho suffix S, or you can say sigma. So here the surface integral of that surface charge density we have to say. So surface integral rho S ds we have to say. Or here in this slide, instead of rho S we taken sigma, instead of ds we taken dA. And similarly for the volume charge density, we can represent rho v, and that volume integral dv, and here it is d tau. Okay. So whatever the charge distribution, whether it is a point charge distribution or line charge distribution or surface charge distribution or volume charge distribution, in order to find that electric field or the force between those 2 points are between the number of points to the single point, we can use the Coulomb's law, and those are the formulas here illustrated. And there are some examples of how to find, let us say, whatever the test point P is at the point xyz, and the source point is x prime, y prime, z prime. Then whatever the distance vector r is between the source point and test point, right? So here from the source point and distance point x2, that is x minus x dash, like that. Here x minus x prime I vector, y minus y prime j vector, and z minus z prime k vector. So like that you can find the distance vector r between test point and the source point. And by using that electric field formula, we can take whether it is volume charge distribution or surface charge distribution or line charge distribution or point charge distribution. There are some examples. So when you have the line charge, then you can find electric field at distance z above the midpoint of that straight line of length 2z, and that is the evaluation already we done in the classroom. And there are the several examples of how to find the force at one point due to the line charge distribution or due to the volume or surface. These are the different examples. And now let us come to the electric force field. And we know whatever the gravitational force that is always acting towards the earth, and here whatever the electric force that is always in the radial direction, towards the charge, towards the whatever the point charge. So here see, whatever the electric force field from the point charge plus q, capital Q, is acting in the small point charge small plus q, is always in that radial direction. See in that figure, always whatever the electric force field in the radial direction. Okay. And that electric field is already we defined force per charge, and force is given by Coulomb's law, which is Q1, Q2 or QA, QB by 4 pi epsilon naught R square AR. And here that force per charge. Okay. And when you replace that force by that formula 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught by the constant K, we have the formula K Q by R square and unit vector R. Okay. And when you have the number of source charges, then you can apply the principle of superposition to add all those. And whatever the electric force field is always in the radial direction. And remember, whatever the electric force here, always in the direction from the positive charge to the negative charge. So always see in that figure, in the radial direction we have the electric field, and when you place plus and minus charges, always that electric force line will start from the positive charge and will end at the negative charge. If that is not seeing terminated at the negative end, that will be ended at the infinite length where we have the negative charge. So remember, whatever the electric force that will start from the positive charge and will end at the or will terminate at the negative charge. When you place two positive charges, those will be repulsive in that figure 3. Okay. So when you say the linear distribution of the charge, that electric force field. So here line charge density, we can say rho L or lambda, which is dq by dl. That is a differential charge per the differential length. And then to find the differential electric field dE, which is at the distance r, is given by that constant k dq by r square. And here dq means from the charge density rho L or lambda, dq is given by rho L dl. So when you replace dq by rho into dl, we have the dE, which is k lambda dl by r square. If you want to find the total electric field, then you can take integration to get the electric field E. So E is constant k integral rho L dl by r square, or rho L, or you can say lambda, which is a line charge density. Similarly, for the surface, instead of rho L, now you can say rho S or sigma, which is given by dq by ds or dA. That is a differential charge for the differential surface, dq by dA or dq by ds, which is rho S. Okay. So here to find the differential electric field dE, we can use the formula same k dq by r square, but dq here in terms of surface charge density rho s ds or sigma dA we can write. So dE is k sigma dA instead of dq by r square. And if you want to find E, we have to take the surface integral of that one. So k surface integral rho s ds or sigma dA by r square. Okay. And similarly for the volume also, we can take volume charge density rho v dV, then total electric field capital E is given by some constant k volume integral rho v dV by r square. Okay. And here whatever the electric dipole, we can define that electric dipole as a pair of 2 point charges which are with the same size but opposite sign of the charge, separated by some small distance d. So here let us say 2 point charges, positive point charge and negative point charge, both are of the equal size but they are opposite sign, positive and negative. And whatever the dipole movement will always in the direction towards the positive charge. And if you say the dipole moment as V, it is given by whatever the charge. Just now we said both are having the same size of point charge. If you say plus Q and then the point charge on that opposite side is minus Q, so the charge is Q. So here the dipole moment is the product of that charge Q and distance between them, and it is always in the direction of positive charge. Okay. So here the dipole moment is the cross product of Q and D, and it is always in the direction towards the positive charge. And here we have some scenarios of the electric flux. So once the electric field and whatever the surface both are in parallel, that means the angle between electric field and that surface is zero, then that flux is the product, dot product between that electric field and that surface E dot A, which is given by simply E. Why? Because you know the dot product means the magnitude of E and magnitude of A and the cosine of the angle between E and A. And since both are in parallel, that angle is zero. So cos zero value 1. So the flux in that situation is E into A. Why? Because cos phi value is cos zero value is 1. And when you have this some angle between the electric field and that source direction orientation, and then you have the flux which is given by EA cos phi. And if both are perpendicular, since the phi is 90 degrees, cos 90 is 0, that flux is 0. So simply you can say that whatever the electric flux with respect to the surface, whether it is oriented in parallel or whether it is oriented in some angle or whether it is perpendicular, in general, for the electric flux, we can say the formula that flux is E dot ds or dA, surface, dA or ds. In general, we can say ds or dA. Okay. So E dot ds is the electric flux. And based on this only, we have the Gauss law. So whatever the enclosed surface integral of that E dot ds is given by Q by epsilon naught, and that is the Gauss law. Okay. So remember, for the electrostatic field, mainly we have to know what is Coulomb's law and what is Gauss law. And here Gauss law will describe what is the electric flux line or how the electric flux lines are related to the electric field. Okay, and especially Gauss law is useful to find the force acting on the charges when there is the symmetrical charge distribution, and you can also use when there is no symmetrical charge distribution also. But whatever the Gauss law, to find those we need to construct some symmetrical structure. And let us say here the point charge is located in the sphere, which is symmetrical, and in the radial direction we have the electric field, and in that radial direction only we have the electric field, and that electric field E will constitute the differential flux d psi as E dot ds or E dot dA, which is EDA. Okay, the same scenario here also. When you replace that electric field E, which is force per charge, Q by 4 pi epsilon r square, and for the sphere, whatever the ds, that is area, is 4 pi r square, that sphere according to the Gauss law has the electric flux psi, which is given by Q by epsilon. Okay, and different scenarios we already seen. Whatever the force line, electric force line, that may take the radial directions and always will end at the negative charge by starting from the positive charge. When you have the two positive charges, there is the repulsive forces, and just we said the sphere, when you say the area of the sphere 4 pi r square, instead of that when you say in the coordinate system, we can write r square sine theta d theta d phi, and by that only we can get that formula. So here the simple Gauss line got integral form, that is surface integral EDS is the total charge enclosed by epsilon naught, and by using the divergence theorem, that surface integral can be replaced by the volume integral, and at the same time that enclosed charge over the volume can be replaced by volume charge density rho v. So here Q enclosed is given by the volume integral of rho. So by equating them, the Gauss law in differential form, we can write del dot E as rho v by epsilon naught. In the integral form, we have the surface integral of E dot ds, which is total enclosed charge by epsilon naught, and in the differential form, the divergence of E is given by rho v by epsilon. And these are the some examples to find the Gauss law applications to find the field outside uniformly charged sphere, and there are the different examples we already seen in the class. Just we need to remember, once we are applying the Gauss law, first thing we need to construct the symmetrical distribution, and then we have to find out where that electric field is perpendicular to that symmetrical condition. And remember, whatever the electric field is always in the radial direction, and that radial direction should be perpendicular to the whatever the symmetrical surface we consider, and after that we can use that Gauss law. Okay, so these are the different examples. Okay, and here Karloffy, and basically there are the some functions to find the rotations or to find the divergences, etc. And here Karloffy means we know how the electric field is rotating, and accordingly how that electric field we can say, and to get that call we can use the Stokes theorem, and similarly to get the divergence we can use the divergence theorem. And basically the electric field is always conservative field, that's why the curl of E is always 0. That means the circulation around the electric field is always 0. Why? Because we know electric field lines are always in the radial direction, not in the circulation. And once if you say for the magnetic field, those magnetic force lines will be always in the loop, so there is the circulation. Okay, and there is no divergence of that magnetic field, that's why del dot B is 0 there, and here curl of E is 0. That's why remember electric field is always irrotational. Why? Because always it is in the radial direction, it's not having the circulations. Okay, and here electric potential, which is work done to move the point charge from any place or from infinite to the particular charge. So here let us say the point charge plus Q, and in order to place from the infinite to that charge plus Q, we have the electric potential, that source charge generates some potential, and that is given by work on that point from the infinite to P by that testing charge. Okay, that just work per charge, work done to place that charge from the infinite place to the particular point by that point charge. Okay, so here electric potential at the point P due to source in its neighborhood, and when you have the potential difference, and we have those formulas, and generally 1 volt is given by 1 joule per coulomb, that is the general unit, and whatever the potential that is measured in volt, if you say in terms of work. Why? Because potential is nothing but work done per point charge, that's work done is measured in joules, and charge is having the units coulomb, so 1 joule per coulomb is the 1 volt. And based on the Coulomb's law, we can write that potential formula 1 by 4 pi epsilon due to the number of source charges, summation of Qy by R. See here, the potential is directly proportional to R, and Coulomb's law is saying whatever the force is directly proportional to the square of the distance. Remember that case, potential is directly proportional to the 1 by R, whereas force is directly proportional to 1 by R square. Okay, and these are the different scenarios of the electric potential we know. Now come to the magnetostatic fields. Hello, Madam Saujanya.
Chappan sir. Hello.
Can you ask
Tell me,
any
sir.
student to ask doubts in that electrostatics?
Chart choose.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
ఇప్పుడు చెప్పిన బాబు స్టూడెంట్స్ మీరు ఎవరైనా మైక్ ఆన్ చేసుకొని యూ కెన్ ఆస్క్ డౌట్స్ ఇన్ దట్ ఎలక్ట్రోస్టాటిక్స్ ఆర్ వాట్ ఎవర్ ద టాపిక్ we missed in that. Why? Because here generally whatever the topics we are going on, not in detail we are discussing. If you have any doubts in the unit 1 electrostatics, you can raise here. I will explain the next session at least. Student can turn on your mic and you can ask the doubt for the electrostatics, and after that we will see magnetostatics.
సార్ అక్కడ నెంబర్స్ ఉన్నాయి కదా, లేకపోతే మీరు అడగండి సార్ ఒకసారి. ఏదైనా నెంబర్ పర్సన్ అడిగితే అర్థమైంది.
వాళ్ళు వింటున్నారు, వాళ్ళు ఎవరైనా అడిగితే ఓకే చూస్తున్నారు.
ఓకే సార్.
I'm giving 1 minute time. మీలో ఎవరైనా ఏమైనా ఎలక్ట్రోస్టాటిక్స్ సంబంధించి ఫస్ట్ యూనిట్ కి సంబంధించి ఏమైనా డౌట్స్ ఉంటే యూ కెన్ రైజ్ ద క్వశ్చన్. Narendra, is he available in this? I'm not able to see attendance. Okay. Can I go to the second unit? Okay, ma'am. Hello.
ఓకే సార్. ఓకే, సెకండ్ యూనిట్.
Okay. Now the magnetostatics. So as earlier we said, when you have the static charges, there is the electric field, and once those charges are moving with the steady speed, then we have the magnetic field, and then we have the magnetostatics. So if the charges are moving with the constant velocity, then the static magnetic field is produced. So magnetostatic fields are originating from the currents where we have the current carrying wires. Okay. And to describe that magnetic force, as we have the Coulomb's law for the electrostatics, we have the Biot-Savart's law, and here the differential element, let us say I into dl, and whatever the magnetic field strength is always directly proportional to the product of the differential current element IDL and what sine of the angle between that differential element and the line joining that particular point. So here Biot-Savart law is explaining that a magnetic field strength dH is given by some constant k IDL sine alpha, and since that magnetic field strength is directly proportional to the inversely proportional to the square of the distance between that differential element and whatever the point of interest, let us say r, then square of the distance as r square, then Biot-Savart's law is dH is given by constant k IDL sine alpha by r square, and here that constant is nothing but 1 by 4 pi. Okay. So these are the same as we have for the electrostatics. Why? Because here that magnetic field strength is a vector. We can describe that sine alpha by the cross product, and after that cross product by the unit vector, and that unit vector with respect to the distance vector, we can write that formula. And these are the different examples to find the magnetic field strength. and whatever the magnetic flux density, which is again vector, is described by nu into h, and here that nu is given by the permeability of that medium, and here with respect to the free space, we can say that free space permeability as 4 pi into 10 power minus 7 Henry per meter, whereas we have the free space permittivity for the electric fields, which is epsilon naught 8.854 into 10 power minus 12 Farad per meter, and here that flux density is given by nu h, and based on that flux density we can say the magnetic flux, which is the surface integral of that flux density. So the magnetic flux psi is given by surface integral of magnetic flux density B dot ds, and here the unit for flux density is Tesla, or you can say Weber per meter square, and the magnetic flux has the units Weber. And whatever the magnetic force acting on the particular point is given by df ideal cross p. And we have the Lorentz force law also when you have the magnetic and electric forces. Once if you have the only electric field, force is given by q into e, and due to the magnetic field the force is given by q v cross b. And see here, whatever the magnetic force is always in the direction perpendicular to the both magnetic field and the velocity of that motion of the charge, and which is given by the right hand screw law. Okay, so force due to the magnetic field is q v cross b. Why? Because here force is perpendicular to the both velocity of the motion of the charge and that particular magnetic field. Okay, and when you combine these two, we have the Lorentz force law. Fp is given by QE plus Q V cross P. Okay, and curl operator, divergence operator, generally we discuss in the review of coordinates what it explains, right? So curl is always explaining how much circulation around that point, and based on that we can say whether it is having the circulation or not. And divergence means how much field is emanating from that point, and based on that we can say is there any emanation, or is there any involvement, or is there any zero divergence. And we know once the divergence is zero, we can say that as the solenoid, and once there is no circulation, we can say that as the conservative field. Okay, or you can say vortex field. So these are the simple things which are explained in the review of coordinates. So here curl is describing the rotation, and based on the right hand screw law we can find that curl direction. Just now we said since that force is given by v cross b, that force is perpendicular to the velocity of that motion v and magnetic field strength b, which is given by right hand screw law. Okay, and that is described here. So here see the particular cases of the divergence and curl, and in figure A there is no circulation, and figure B always it is in the emanating, and in figure C there is the circulation. So like that here we have the whether there is the divergence, whether there is the circulation, or whether they are solenoidal, or whether they are no circulations. Okay, and that is given by Helmholtz theorem. So once the dot product, that means the divergence is zero, we can say that as the solenoidal. That means there is no divergence. There is no divergence means field cannot existing, or field cannot sinking. So there is no source, or there is no sink of that flux. And here remember the divergence of curl of any vector is always zero. Okay, and that's why here whatever the solenoidal field, that is always curl of some vector. Okay, and if that curl of vector is zero, then that vector is said to be irrotational. There is no circulation, and that irrotational field can be represented by the scalar quantity, which is that means some scalar quantity by the gradient operation, which is minus del v. and here del V means gradient, rate of change. And based on these phenomena, we can define magnetic vector potential, which is del cross A. So here A is the magnetic vector potential. Okay, so whatever the magnetostatic field B, why? Because see, whatever the magnetic field that cannot be isolated, you can say some example. When you break up whatever the magnet, that magnet always will possess north and east direction of symbols. That means we cannot isolate charges of that magnetic once if you break up also. Simply you can say there is no non-existence of isolated charges from the magnetic field. That's why we can say the divergence of that magnetic field is always zero. And just now we said the divergence of curl of any vector is zero. So if you replace that magnetic flux density B by the curl of any vector, since the magnetic flux cannot be isolated, that means non-existence of isolated charges, del dot B is zero. If you replace B by the curl of any vector, then that vector is nothing but called magnetic vector potential. Okay, and that magnetic vector potential is given by the electric scalar line and line current and etc. And Stokes theorem, which will convert the line integral into the surface integral by the curl. And divergence theorem, we know surface integral can be replaced by the volume integral. And here Ampere's circuital law. See, for the electrostatic field we have the Gauss law. Similarly here for the magnetostatic field, in order to find the magnetic field strength, force for the symmetrical or even non-symmetrical, we can use Ampere's circuital law. But the only the thing in the previous case, first we need to construct the symmetrical configuration. After that we need to verify whatever that electrical field in the perpendicular direction. Why? Because in that perpendicular direction only we have the constancy, and otherwise we have the zero. And in the Ampere's circuital law, whatever the symmetrical charge distribution we consider, and for that one we need to see whether it is parallel or perpendicular, and we have to consider as constant in the parallel direction. Whereas in that case, perpendicular direction, we have to consider that as the constant. And now for the magnetostatic fields, we have to say that in the parallel direction. Okay. And here that Ampere's circuital law is whatever the charge or whatever the current enclosed in the particular loop is always given by the line integral or closed line integral H dot dl. Okay. So the total enclosed current is given by the line integral of H dot dl. That is the integral form of Ampere's circuital law, and we can take the differential form also. So that according to divergence, del dot B is zero. These are the boundary conditions. So simply when you say about the magnetostatics by the just Biot-Savart's law and Ampere's circuital law, these are the phenomena. And based on that, we have the different examples how to find the magnetic field strength and the magnetic force. And if you have any doubts, you can ask, and after that we will see how the EM wave will result and what are the Maxwell's equations due to the electrostatics and magnetostatics and time variance. Yes, any doubts? I will feel so happy when you ask any one question. Yes. So here electrostatics are explained by the Coulomb's law and Gauss law, and magnetostatics are explained by the Biot-Savart's law and Ampere's circuital law. So here Coulomb's law is given by Q1 Q2 by 4 pi epsilon naught r square to find the force, and Gauss law is nothing but to get the electric flux equation. And similarly, magnetostatic fields are given by the Biot-Savart's law and Ampere's circuital law. And based on these, we have so many examples solved in the classroom. Yes, anyone? Yes, 475. 475.
Sir.
Hello.
Sir.
చెప్పమ్మా.
చెప్పండి సార్.
అడగండి మీ డౌట్ ఏంటి?
ఏం లేదు సార్, ఇది బై మిస్టేక్ మైక్.
అవునా? ఎస్, ఎనీవన్? అంటే జస్ట్ మనం ఇక్కడ రివిజన్ అనే పాయింట్ ఆఫ్ వ్యూలో మాత్రం మాట్లాడుతున్నాం. యాక్చువల్గా రివిజన్ అనేది ఒక్కొక్క టాపిక్ మనం ఫస్ట్ 3 యూనిట్స్ మాట్లాడాలంటే చాలా ఉన్నాయి. జస్ట్ నేను అవుట్లైన్స్ మాత్రమే మాట్లాడుతున్నాను. ఒకవేళ లేదు పర్టికులర్లీ ఈ టాపిక్ బాగా ఇబ్బందిగా ఉంది అనేవి ఏవైనా యూ కెన్ ఆస్క్, వీ విల్ డిస్కస్ ఆర్ వీ కెన్ షేర్ ఇన్ ది నెక్స్ట్ సెషన్. నెక్స్ట్ 25th ఐ థింక్. సో మళ్ళీ మనకు సెషన్ ఉంది, ఆ సెషన్ మనం డిస్కస్ చేయొచ్చు. ఎనీవన్? ఓకే, నౌ లెట్ us see about Maxwell's equations. So once the charges are in the static condition, we have the electric field. Once those charges are moving with the constant velocity, we have the magnetic field. And if both these are time varying, then we have the EM waves, right? So stationary charges producing electrostatic fields, and steady currents, that means once the charges are moving with the constant velocity, they will produce magnetostatic fields. And due to the time varying currents, that means once there is the change of electric field or the change of magnetic field, then in vice versa, if you have the change of electric field, then there is the change of magnetic field, and due to that we have the electromagnetic fields. Okay, so here remember, for the non-time varying cases, whatever the electric field and magnetic field, both are always independent. There is no dependence between the magnetic field and electric field. If you say for the time varying fields, there is the interdependence between the electric and magnetic field, and that interdependence is given by the Faraday's law, which is del cross E equal to minus dou B by dou T, right? So here let us see that Faraday's law and etc. So here electromagnetic fields, how they are resulting for the time varying fields is discussed. And continuity equation means we know charge cannot be created or cannot be described. So here del dot J, the divergence of current density, is minus dou rho V by dou T is the continuity equation. And when you say the static currents, that means static currents, their del dot J is 0. And based on this continuity equation only, we have some modification of the Maxwell's equation with respect to the static and time varying conditions. So actually from the Ampere's circuital law, we said that charge enclosed is given by the line integral H dot dl. So when you convert into the surface integral from the enclosed charge, their del dot J, whatever it is 0. But for the time varying fields, that must be is minus dou rho V by dou T, which is requiring some modification, and that modification will give the displacement current density also. Okay, so here the continuity equation means basically we can say the charge cannot be created or cannot be destroyed, Or simply in the equation form, we can say del dot J is minus dou rho V by dou T. Here rho is the volume charge density or rate of change of volume charge density. Yes. So the continued equation is displacement current. So actually for the magnetostatic fields, del cross H is J is the Ampere circuital law. And from the basics, we can say the divergence of curl of any vector is 0. And here del cross H is J. So del dot J is 0. But according to continuity equation, we have the del dot J is minus dou rho V by dou T, that never be 0. So in order to rectify that, we have the some modification to the Ampere circuital law, and that is del cross H instead of J, we can write J plus JD. And here J is the conduction current density and JD is the displacement current density. And we can derive the formula for the JD also, which is dou D by dou T. And there is the derivation here. So actually del cross H is 0. So once if you say H as a J plus JD, then del dot J plus del dot JD. And according to this equation, the divergence of J is equal to minus del dot ZD, or del dot ZD equal to minus del dot Z. And from the continuity equation, we know del dot J is minus dou rho V by dou T. So minus del dot J is dou rho V by dou T. And using Gauss law, we can say del dot D is rho V. So based on that, del dot dou D by dou T is del dot JD, and accordingly we can say the displacement current density JD is dou D by dou T. So the modification of the Ampere circuital law by including displacement current density is given by del cross H is J plus dou D by dou T. So the same thing is explained, how the displacement current. And here the Faraday's law, which is del cross E is minus dou B by dou D, and B is the flux density, and B is that means surface integral of B is given by psi. So surface integral of B dot ds is given by psi. So we can say E dot dl is minus d psi by dt. So accordingly we can define electric potential also. V is given by minus n d psi by dt. So generally we will say the number of turns n as 0. So the potential V is minus n and n value will be 1. So minus d psi by dt. So remember here the negative sign is indicating whatever that induced voltage is always in the opposite direction of the change of flux. And that is also said by the Lenz law. So Lenz law means whatever the electric flux, that flux change is always opposing that induced voltage. So V is having always negative sign for the flux formula. So V equal to minus d psi by dt. And based on that flux linkages, we have the inductance also. So actually we have V equal to n d psi by dt, and basically whatever that flux is always directly proportional to the induced current in that turns. So based on that we can say that flux psi is directly proportional to the current I, or the directly proportionality can be replaced by the constant k. So psi is k into I. So accordingly we can say the inductance L is given by lambda by I. So here self inductance is always ratio of magnetic flux linkage to the current I flowing the loop. Remember, magnetic field is always in the loops. Electric field is always in the radial directions. And once if you have series connection of inductance, there is the summation. And for the coaxial transmission line also, we found that inductance expression nu by 2 pi log b by a. So this is inductance, and these are the general forms of Maxwell's equation: differential form, integral form. So del dot D is equal to rho v, del dot B is equal to 0. Faraday's law, from Faraday's law, del cross E minus dou B by dou T, del cross H equal to J plus dou D by dou T. And all these are for the time varying fields. See, for the static field, all equations are okay, and here equation 3 and equation 4 are different. Del cross E is 0 for the static fields. Why? Because we just now we said that there is no dependence between electric and magnetic fields once they are static. If they are time varying, then only there is the interdependence between the electric and magnetic fields. So last equation 3 and 4 are for the time varying fields. And for the static fields, those two are different. Del cross E is 0 and del cross H equal to just J only. And these are the equations for the time varying fields. And here there are the 4 Maxwell's equations: del dot D equal to rho v, del dot B equal to 0, del cross E equal to minus dou B by dou T, and del cross H equal to J plus dou D by dou T. And the first one is nothing but Gauss law. And the second one is non-existence of magnetic monopole charge. And the third one is Faraday's law, and the last one is modification of Ampere circuit law. And we can also express, see here the figure, magnetic flux lines are always in the radial direction from positive charge to negative charge, whereas the magnetic flux lines are always in the circular loops. Okay, so the first figure is the representing flux lines movement, and the second one magnetic flux line movements. So electric fields always originating from positive charge and ending at negative charge, and magnetic charges cannot begin or end, so they can only form closed loops. And for the sinusoidal films, we have to say the phasor notation. That means instead of dou by dou T, change of time, we have to replace j omega. Okay, so whatever the equations we have there, once we have the term dou by dou T, we have to replace that dou by dou T by j omega. So for the sinusoidal fields, see the first equation, del dot D is rho v, and the second equation, del dot B is 0, and the third equation in the previous time, del cross E is minus dou B by dou T. So instead of dou by dou T, we replaced here j omega for the sinusoidal fields. Similarly, the last equation, del cross H equal to J plus dou D by dou T, and here instead of dou by dou T, we replaced j omega. And these are the Maxwell's equations for the sinusoidal fields. Just we have to replace dou by dou T by j omega. And there are the certain phenomena due to the EM waves traveling towards the magnetic conducting fields. So within the high conductivity materials, always there is the increased resistance due to the skin effect. That means once you have the high conductivity material, when the time varying fields are present in that material, whatever the corresponding fields and currents will appear at the surface of that material. That is nothing but called skin effect. Why? Because in the high conducting material, once if you place the charge, that charge will disappear immediately and that charge will appear at the surface. That's why here, once the time varying fields are present in the high conductivity material, whatever the fields and currents, always confined to the region near to the surface of that material, which is nothing but called skin effect. So due to the skin effect, whatever the effective resistance of those conductors will be high at higher frequencies. Okay, so here Helmholtz equation, by replacing those dou by dou t terms, so skin effect will describe how much depth of penetration of EM waves towards the high conducting media. So these are the derivations, and these are the relations between skin depth and surface resistance. All these are the relation between surface impedance and general resistance and impedances. I am sharing these materials, we can go through these. Okay, so these are about electrostatics and magnetostatics and time varying fields. And in the next session we will see EM wave characteristics, that means uniform plane equations, how they are obtaining, and EM wave characteristics too, that means what is the reflection and refraction of EM waves according to the surfaces and boundaries. And after that we will see the transmission lines, which are so easy and important for the students with respect to the examinations. So in the next session we will see those EM wave characteristics and the transmission lines. And you can ask anyone regarding the first 3 units, and the first 2 units only here. Why? Because EM wave characteristics 1 regarding uniform plane waves and those characteristics we will see in the next session. Why? Because EM wave characteristics 1 and the characteristics 2 and transmission line parts, those are so simple, and we will discuss in the next session. So here just we discussed electrostatic fields and magnetostatic fields and the corresponding boundary conditions, not explained here, but you know very well. According to the dielectric media, or according to the dielectric and conducting media, what are the normal components and what are the tangential components, and we seen in the slides but not explained in detail, because they are so easy. And finally we discussed the Maxwell's equations for the static and time varying fields. Okay, and in the next session we will see unit 3, unit 4, unit 5, unit 6. And up to now, if you have any doubts you can ask, and if you have any topic especially facing trouble, you can ask me. We will discuss in the next session those topics. Yes, Saujanya madam.
సార్ చెప్పండి సార్.
Hello.
హలో సార్.
Raise the questionnaire for the students. The session is almost completing.
ఓకే సార్.
And my slide sharing is over.
చాట్ విండోలో కూడా నో క్వశ్చన్స్ సార్.
No questions, sir.
సార్
అంటే ఇందులో అమ్మాయి రత్నకుమారి 72 జాయిన్ అయ్యారా?
72 జాయిన్ అయ్యారు సార్.
రత్నకుమారి, మీకు ఏమైనా డౌట్స్ లేవా? సిఆర్
472.
No sir. Very good. Narendra. B2.
సార్ ఐ వుడ్.
Vindhya. Okay. Okay, ma, we will join in the next session, and remember in the next session we will see the most important questions asked in the previous papers also. and there is a less time to prepare these slides for this, and there is the vast syllabus of unit 1 and unit 2. That's why most easy things are discussed here, and remaining all the problems and solved questions, all those things are available in the material which are shared in the classrooms. If you face any doubts, you can ask, and you can send through the WhatsApp also. I will discuss in the next session. Okay, ma'am, can you close?
Okay, ma'am. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Wait for 1 minute and ask any student to raise the question. Roll number 76. Is he available?
సార్
మిస్టర్ పాల్, ఏమన్నా డౌట్స్ ఉన్నాయమ్మా? ఇప్పుడు ఈ రోజు చేసిన దాంట్లో ఏమన్నా క్వశ్చన్ ఏరియా ఏమన్నా ఉంటే చెప్పండి.
అలాంటి ఏం లేదు సార్. సార్ ఇప్పుడు వరకు క్లాస్ జరిగిన వాటిల్లో ప్రీవియస్ క్వశ్చన్ పేపర్స్ లో అడిగిన క్వశ్చన్స్ అట్లాంటివి ఏమైనా ఉంటే షేర్ చేస్తారా సార్?
మీకు ఆల్రెడీ ఈఎంటీఎల్ క్వశ్చన్ పేపర్స్ ఆల్మోస్ట్ షేర్ చేశాను అనుకుంటా కదా.
అవి మామూలుగా మిడ్ కి అట్లా షేర్ చేశారు సార్.
అంటే ఆల్ దే ఆర్ ఆస్క్డ్ ఇన్ ది ప్రీవియస్ పేపర్స్.
ఓకే సార్.
మీకు యూనిట్ వైజ్ క్వశ్చన్స్ ఏవైతే షేర్ చేశామో ఆల్ దే ఆర్ ఆస్క్డ్ ఇన్ ది R16 అండ్ ప్రీవియస్ పేపర్స్ ఉంది.
ఓకే సార్, థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్.
ఎనీ మోర్ టాపిక్స్ ఇన్ ది యూనిట్ 1 and 2 బాగా డిఫికల్టీగా అనిపించి ఇక్కడ మనం డిస్కస్ చేయనివి ఏమైనా ఉన్నాయా?
నో సార్, నో సార్.
ఓకే, నరేంద్ర, I think roll number 81. Is he available?
81 is left, sir. No, sir.
Raleda?
81 is left. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, anyone?
సార్ యూనిట్ 6 మెటీరియల్ ఇస్తారా సార్?
హలో
సార్, నేను నా పేరు అనిరుద్ సార్, రోల్ నెంబర్ 98.
ఓకే,
యూనిట్ 6 మెటీరియల్ మీరు ఇంతకుముందు ఇస్తా అన్నారు కానీ ఇవ్వడం కుదరలేదు, మరి ఇది ఇవ్వగలరా?
నేను ఇస్తానన్నాను, మీ సిఆర్ కలెక్ట్ చేసుకోలేదు, అండ్ దట్ ఈస్ అవైలబుల్ ఇన్ ద కాలేజ్, అండ్ డ్యూ టు ది కరోనా ఐఎమ్ నాట్. ఓకే, నెక్స్ట్ సెషన్ కి యూనిట్ 6 మెటీరియల్ నేను మీకు అప్లోడ్ చేయడానికి ట్రై చేస్తాను. ఓకే అనిల్?
ఓకే సార్.
హలో,
థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్, థ్యాంక్ యూ.
యూనిట్ 6 యాక్చువల్లీ మీ సిఆర్ ని కలెక్ట్ చేసుకోమన్నాను, బట్ షీ అనేబుల్ టు కలెక్ట్. తర్వాత ఇంకా హాలిడేస్ వచ్చాయి. ఓకే, నో ప్రాబ్లం. నెక్స్ట్ సెషన్ మనకు 25th కదా, ఈ లోపు నేను ఆ మెటీరియల్ ని బైండర్ లో అప్లోడ్ చేస్తాను. ఓకే
ఓకే ఓకే.
ఎనీమో? సిఆర్ సాయి లక్ష్మి.
Yes, sir.
ఆల్ యూనిట్ 5 యూనిట్స్ అన్ని కూడాను షేర్ చేసేసారు కదా.
Yes, sir.
ఓకే, ఇప్పుడు మనం చేసిన దాంట్లో ఏమైనా డౌట్స్ ఉన్నాయమ్మా?
Let's.
ఈ ఫస్ట్ 2 యూనిట్స్ లో నుంచి ఏమైనా టాపిక్స్ ఏమైనా చెప్తే బాగుంటుంది అనే టాపిక్స్ ఏమైనా మిస్ అయ్యామా?
Hello.
ఏమైనా మిస్ అయ్యామా? ఓకే మా. ఓకే, we will join in the next session, but most of the people join అయితే better. నెక్స్ట్ సెషన్ కి నేను ప్రీవియస్ పేపర్స్ క్వశ్చన్స్ కూడా తీసుకుంటాను. We will discuss more. Okay. Okay. Madam Saujanya, shall we close?
సార్ ఓకే సార్ థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్ క్లోజ్ సార్